have been since 1983, so I've seen the gamut of what goes on. As an educator, of course, control is important in our classroom, but the real purpose of the school is to educate. And particularly at the high school level, we get to see how exciting it is as our students enter into the adult discussion regarding these. It's really important, in my mind, to recognize students' rights and to respect those. Not only from a civil liberties standpoint, which is important, but also from a human standpoint. We are asking them to enter into an extremely diverse world, a world where they need to learn how to respect others. And I believe it is totally impossible for a student to respect others without knowing how it feels to be respected. So as we enter into these discussions, it's extremely important that they understand what respect really means, and not trampling on their rights. We have the opportunity to teach that, which is our purpose. Ultimately, students haven't changed that much over the last 30 years that I've taught, and their issues really haven't changed that much. Our rights haven't changed. The only thing that's really changed in this whole discussion is the technology they're using.
Thank you both. I want to just add a little bit to what Brian and Colleen both so eloquently described. Really, as Colleen said, the issues that we're addressing here have to do with the fact that technology always advances faster than law and policy can catch up. And that presents challenges for people who are trying to write laws and enforce them, because the laws weren't written with these kind of activities in mind. And that's, as Chris mentioned, that's why we put together this letter to help school districts who are trying to deal with these challenges and trying to figure out how this technology interacts with their existing policies. And in that regard, our belief certainly is we believe strongly in civil liberties. We want to protect student-free speech. We want to encourage students to exercise their speech. But schools also have the responsibility to help kids understand what that means. And very often when we have these examples of online speech that may be troubling, rather than punishing kids, that presents a teachable moment. That presents an opportunity to help kids understand, yes, you do have a freedom of speech, but you can exercise it in a way that's respectful to yourself and to others. And we take a similar stance with regard to sexting. As Brian mentioned, the child pornography laws, the sex offender laws, those were not designed with sexting in mind by any means whatsoever. These laws, the purpose of both of those laws was to protect children from being victimized by others. And the problem with enforcing these laws against kids who are taking and sending their own pictures is that then you're ultimately using a law that was designed to protect this group to essentially punish the victim. And we believe that's similarly problematic. Certainly, laws and policies need to catch up with technology. We all agree on that. But in the meantime, we need to look at kind of the existing framework of the laws we have and the purpose for which they were written. And as you have in your packets, the letters that were sent out to the school administrators that really give some guidance on what the current state of the law is in being applied to technology, and the ACLU of Ohio's views in terms of the civil liberties perspective. Certainly, schools have a right to control the school environment, to keep order, to have discipline, and have policies that you're not allowed to use your cell phone in the middle of class when you're supposed to be paying attention to your math lesson. That's perfectly reasonable, as I'm sure Colleen would readily agree. However, there are limits to how far a school can reach to discipline a child. Speech that occurs during school time, using school resources for a school function, that is disruptive to the school environment or that constitutes a threat, those are things a school can discipline. But speech that is non-disruptive or that happens outside of the school context, even if you don't like it, is not something that's within the school's disciplinary reach. And again, we'd suggest really what we have there is a teachable moment. It's an opportunity to talk with the kids and help them understand how to responsibly use the technology that they have. And I'll conclude with that.
Point I'd like to close with the remarks is that in all of this, we're not suggesting that the school needs to do nothing in the face of texting, sexting in particular, or in the face of, speech that hurts the feelings of others, but what we're suggesting is that it should not be a disciplinary issue. It should be an issue for discussion, teaching, the teachable moment, programs within the schools. And I think especially sexting lends itself to that in these classes that we have, whether it's a family life class or an abstinence-only class. I think that addressing sexting there and kind of the dating relationship is really important, because that's the context where we see most of this happening, that a girlfriend is sending a photo to a boyfriend. That action alone has been prosecuted in Ohio as child pornography, and more severely across the country. So we'd like to see that taken out of the legal framework and put into the education and counseling framework. So with that, if you have deal with everything from strip searches in the public schools to political speech on T-shirts to drug sniffing dogs, and I'm sure you could address any of that if you want.
So are you saying if the kid's out on a Saturday night and they send a text message to someone else, that when school gets back in session on Monday morning, that the administration of the school can call those kids in and talk to them about sexting, that they're not allowed to punish them?
I think that's a fair assessment, yeah. And we actually like that. If you look at what goes on in the area of bullying, where schools now actually have a legal responsibility to deal with bullying, a lot of that behavior goes back and forth from the public to the private or to the neighborhood. And we like school employees, the administration, to take a hand in protecting kids, but it doesn't have to be by, the answer isn't always calling the cops, right? And I think we've become kind of an education system that relies on calling the cops an awful lot.
One of the things that, to follow that question up, one of the